Hey, what's up, everybody? Chad Calek here, and welcome back to the In a Crowded Room podcast for episode number 97, which we are going to talk about the price of incompetence. This is kind of an update from California based on what I'm seeing, but also just in general, it's going to be a podcast in response to the most recent developments with the coronavirus lockdown. I gotta be honest, guys, I am just really unimpressed by the way this is all being handled. First and foremost tonight, I saw that our government was unable to come together and find a plan that works and vote on the financial stimulus package that would put checks into the hands of those who need it as soon as possible. And with rent coming due and with bills coming due for small business owners, for individuals, this is going to be a problem. And the price that they're going to pay, again, goes back to my initial scare in all of this, which is just civil unrest and panic. Right now, a lot of people are being told they can't work. So if your government is going to order that you have to stay at home and you can't work, then they obviously have to give you some kind of method to make a living. And if the package to do that is locked up in gridlock between two parties, which is ridiculous that we have a two-party system to begin with, because right now there should not be two parties. Right now, there should be a bunch of people together saying, first and foremost, how do we protect the poor and disenfranchised? Number one, that should be the number one thing on the minds of those that are working on this stimulus package. And this is obviously beyond medical care for all. But there's a lot of things that, I learned and read that were issues that blew my mind. For example, the stimulus checks they're talking about, the cutoff line is basically $75,000. If you make $75,000 as an individual or less, 75 or less, you're supposed to get a check for $1,200. And this is based upon the 2018 tax returns. But here's what's interesting to me. I asked the question, what if you didn't work in 2018? What if you were injured and you've been working since 2019? What if you were not able to afford to file your taxes in 2018? And I was blown away that the answer was you're not getting checks. Now, while that doesn't affect me personally, when thinking about the poor and the disenfranchised and thinking about the hood, and thinking about locations where this is going to be commonplace, the people that need this money the most are the people that are not going to get it. And that is tragic. That is tragic. That should not be happening. And I also don't understand why $75,000 is the cutoff line. Shouldn't it be scaled where if you're poor, you actually get more help? A $1,200 check means a lot more to a person that makes 20 grand a year to the person who makes 75,000 a year. Shouldn't it be that the poor person would get, an $1,800 check and the 75,000 person would get, maybe an $800 check? It just seems like the system as it stands right now is like a blanket proposal that doesn't seem to have a lot of thought behind it. And this just goes back to absolute incompetence amongst our elected leaders. I mean, you're going to tell me that in a room of people that are supposed to be, doctors and lawyers and, standout superstars in college and, all these people together, this is the best they could come up with. Anybody who makes 75 grand, basically gets $1,000. And I guess how it works is for every $1,000 you make, over 75,000, they reduced the check by $100, which again, this just seems like monkey math, like it's literally seems like someone sat down on a table and went, so I got an idea. 75,000 is middle class, right? Okay, well, let's just make that the number. And if you make up to 100,000, once you're over 100,000, then you don't get shit. So what we'll do is every $1,000 over 75 grand, we'll take away $100. I mean, it just seems ridiculous to me. It's like, man, is there any kind of mathematical scale that we could apply to this? It shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't be that hard to go, okay, listen, the people that are the poorest need the help the fastest, and they need the most money, Although my neighborhood's very nice, less than 3 miles away is a really, really disenfranchised area known as Watts, and it's legendary. It has a history for rioting, for looting, for just burning this city down when it doesn't like what's going on. And the last thing I need is a Watts riot to roll into Santa Monica because a bunch of idiots got together and didn't stop to think that if somebody didn't register their taxes in 2018, that shouldn't disqualify them from needing help. Because, look, man, whether you filed or not, being hungry is being hungry. I mean, what does that basically say to people? If you didn't file, or if you were injured, or if you were just broke in 2018, we're not worried about your hunger. That doesn't make sense, man. Most people throughout their life have paid in plenty of money to the government. Even if you don't file, throughout the year, you're paying taxes on everything you buy at the point of purchase. We are taxed 2 or 3 times. We're taxed during tax season, plus at the point of purchase. And, in some cases, a third time after filing. So it's a crazy scenario where I just don't think they're thinking this through, because, the real issues are going to occur, not today, but, 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now, when you have entire neighborhoods that are just absolutely, bombed by this stuff, when families are getting sick, when, grandma and grandpa, or, a wife, a son, a child, when they're getting sick as can possibly be, and they can't work because they were told to go home, and they have no way to make any money, but they've still got to get medicines, they've still got to get food. It goes back to that same Rage Against the Machine line I said in the last podcast, man. Hungry people don't stay hungry for long. And I empathize. I empathize with them. This is a time where we have to pay attention to the disenfranchised, to the poor. We have to take care of them. Because if we don't do it now, they're going to make sure that their voices are heard in the very near future. And they should be heard. They should absolutely be heard. And the latest issue right now that has everybody freaked out, and I'm feeling this is just from talking to neighbors and friends, and this National Guard thing has people freaked out. And for a lot of, very valid reasons. We were told tonight that the National Guard is mobilizing. Now, whenever that happens and there's no, foreign enemy in sight, people have that natural fear of, martial law. Now, again, I don't think it's even possible to, instate a martial law. Not in this country. I don't think there's enough manpower. I don't think you'd find enough people willing to try to instate martial law. But there are some very real issues that have people uncomfortable, and it starts back with incompetence. Because, Trump says they're coming to help fight the coronavirus. What does that mean? That means jack shit. When I hear that, I don't know what that means. When they say, yes, I have signed all the paperwork that I need to sign today to deploy the National Guard to California. to help in the fight against the coronavirus. And we've told the governors there that, they don't have to worry about the cost of it. And, my first thought was, well, great. I'm glad their financial issues are taken care of. What about the citizens here that are waiting on these checks? For some reason, when it comes to anything, that is involved with the military, instantly it's paid for. But how about the civilians that pay the taxes that supposedly employ all of these people? But the issue that I have is that people become scared of men with guns when they don't know what they're going to use the guns for. So, of course, that's when you get people freaking out, thinking, oh, there's something, conspiratorial going on, which I'm sure there is to some degree. It's pretty obvious, right? We don't have any real hard details on really anything, and yet this is all going down. But we know the National Guard is coming here, and the rumors are that they're going to start basically setting up on the freeway systems, and they're going to keep people in their neighborhoods. That's the rumors that are flying around, meaning if I'm in Santa Monica, I'm not going past the 405 if I take the 10 East, which gives me about a 9-mile radius that I can go. And basically they would do that for each neighborhood. They'd do an X in the middle of the city in which they would direct people back. I don't know why they would do that after thinking about it. It doesn't really make any sense to me why they would do that, because at the end of the day, I don't think the danger is people driving per se. I think large gatherings are the issue. Or at least we're told this, But again, I guess my overall point is it's just absolute incompetence by the government's failure to properly inform the public as to what exactly is going on. If the National Guard is coming here, okay, fine. What will they be doing? Will they be building, makeshift hospital facilities? That's the one thing that they said that they were going to help with. Well, okay, how many are coming? How many troops are going to be walking our streets? How many armed military men are going to invade our neighborhoods? And what is their role going to be with us? If I'm walking my dog with Laura, is an armed, soldier going to tell me that I need to, remain 6 feet away from her? If that's the issue, there's going to be problems. Like I said, I don't think martial law will ever be a real situation to deal with, but these things start encroaching on that, right? If someone's telling me that I can't leave my neighborhood and they're sending me away and they're blocking off areas that I can go and they're telling me, how close I can be to other people, this shit is not going to fly, man. It's not going to fly in this community. And I was talking to one of my friends, Justin Ross, tonight, who's in Dallas, Fort Worth in Texas. Tell you what, it will not fly in Texas because there's already motorcycle clubs and all kinds of people that are forming their own militias right now in Texas. Like, they don't play, So again, I think all this stuff would, wouldn't be an issue if they would just explain things, give us the real picture of what's going on, and let people know, listen, you don't have anything to worry about. Nothing beyond, what is going on right now is going to happen. The guard is not going to come out there and try to order you around at gunpoint. They're there to help the situation, and they're also there should civil unrest break out. We need to have a presence there to make sure we can contain it. I mean, like, all of these things, are reasonable, reasonable processes that they could be here to enforce. But again, when you just tell me the National Guard's coming and they're going to help combat the coronavirus, that sounds an awful lot like the war on drugs or the war on terror, right? How come every, war we engage in the last 3 decades has been a nameless, faceless enemy? And that's scary. And that has people feeling very, very uncomfortable right now. And I guess if I could sum up what's going on in LA right now, and I really do think I speak for my entire community when I say everyone's just uncomfortable because we realize we're not getting the full story. And we realize that our elected leaders know a lot more than they're telling us. And the price of that incompetence is going to be panic. It's going to be panic. And they're going to have nobody to blame but themselves. You know? Nobody but themselves. Because they weren't just straight up with us. Just tell us what you know. Tell us what's going to happen. And if you're obviously they're rolling this plan out in increments and steps, tell us what the end zone looks like. You know, because right now we don't know. Are we on the 20-yard line? Are we on the 50? You know, are we in the other 20? Are we getting close to the end zone of what you want to accomplish? You know, maybe the public would help them. You know, would help the government if they knew what the end zone looks like. If they knew, you know, what is the game plan. Because right now it just seems like catastrophic failure. You know? You get a bunch of people together in a room, and the best plan they can come up with for money is, well, if you make $75K, you'll get basically $1,000. You know? And if you didn't file taxes or if you didn't work in 2018, well, fuck you. You can starve. You know, and even that, like, that helps, and I'm glad that Trump realizes that, you know, anybody who says, you know, the old line, you know, money doesn't buy happiness. No, money doesn't buy happiness. But it buys freedom and security, and that's akin to happiness, right? It can do a lot, you know? Saying money doesn't buy happiness is kind of like saying hamburgers don't solve hunger, eating does. You know, it's like, well, one's kind of integral to the other, you know what I mean? If you've got no money and no way of getting money, believe me, that $1,000 is going to do a lot to make you calm down, you know? But if you don't have it, and you don't know when it's coming, and then you hear that your elected leaders couldn't get their shit together enough to do something as simple as sending you $1,000 check. I don't know, man. It's just a huge, loss of confidence. It's just a big L. You know, so far, everything I've seen out of our government in this situation, starting with the fact that we've clearly reacted way late. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but it's now come out that way back in early December, you know, Trump was being briefed on the fact that this was coming. Way back in early December. You know, so this was known 3.5 months ago? And we're doing this shit? You know, if we really wanted to make the spike look like a bell on the curve, why weren't we taking these steps way back in December? You know, my guess is no one wanted to fuck with the economy. My guess is they just wanted to keep it, going the way it was as long as they could until they finally hit a wall where they're like, well, we're going to have to do something now because our healthcare system is going to collapse. And the main reason, the primary reason that we're seeing, this semi-collapse of the healthcare system already is that it's not socialized. A socialized healthcare system is built to take on so many more people than a privatized system. You know, I mentioned this yesterday. A privatized system is built to handle the supply and demand, basically those who can pay. A social system is built to handle so many more, potential cases because so many more people go to the doctor in a socialized system. And, to the question as to how long our government knew, I have to wonder if it goes back even further. And I say that because I was thinking about this format, YouTube. Do you guys remember about a year ago when it was announced that YouTube was going to start cracking down and removing conspiracy theory videos? I mean, I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, well, why? If they're all BS and it's just, people's minds getting the best of them, why would you remove them? And this happened at the same time that all these downtown, Jade Helm exercises were going on. I watched it here in LA when Chinook helicopters in the middle of the night, overtook the city. The might of the U.S. military just descended upon LA to do what they called, a training mission. And they said it was, to train when they invade, like Baghdad in like Iraq and Iran, so like that. And I remember thinking, man, listen, there's all kinds of places they can train for that. Why would they actually pick Los Angeles and then use Los Angeles, especially if the advances in virtual reality? A lot of the SEALs, the Navy SEALs, and you guys can Google this yourself and look it up. The Navy SEALs, before they go into missions, they do virtual reality missions where they actually wear the headgear that recreates the exact, location that they're going to be going into. There's a friend of mine in Des Moines, Iowa, that was a part of Blackwater, that was a former SEAL that trained with the virtual reality stuff. So there's no reason that they have to, go to downtown LA at 3 a.m. and scare the bejesus out of everybody, for a training exercise. And maybe they did, maybe they just thought, hey, there's nothing like the real thing. Let's go do it. Fair enough. My whole point is, if that's what's really going on, just give us the real information of what's happening. Don't leave us all guessing. And then after the media blows up about it, then you finally respond, like a month later to say what was going on. It just all felt sketchy. And right around that same time is when YouTube started saying, we're going to either remove conspiracy theory videos, or we're going to shadow ban them where no one can find them, or we're going to demonetize them. Guys, every single podcast that I put up is demonetized. All of them. All of them. My podcast that I put up yesterday, or 2 days ago, on the coronavirus, guys, was demonetized. Why? What? I don't even ask them for a manual review anymore because it doesn't even make sense. I just think I've been identified. I'm on a list there, and which doesn't surprise me, especially considering everything with Sir No Face, Two Face, Phantom Rider, Truther. If I put up a podcast, it gets demonetized immediately off the jump. I can do a podcast tomorrow about how much I love and miss my grandma, and I swear to God, it'll be demonetized. It's not suitable for audiences, But, it just makes me wonder. It's like, why did, at the same time that, the Jade Helm conspiracy was at its peak, I mean, I was seeing videos about Jade Helm and the Walmarts being repurposed for, holding centers, and all of the plastic field caskets, being brought into these, Walmarts and stored in their, what was their former, plant area where they held the plants. Now they're holding, all these plastic coffins. It was, and there's some great videos out there. There's a really great video about a guy who, he was in the front of Walmart and he's turning his phone on. You can see the different Wi-Fis that are set up. And, one of the Wi-Fis on there, said Department of Homeland Security. And then below it said the Navy SEAL team that was there. And it was like, holy shit, why is the Navy SEAL team deployed in the middle of a Walmart in Arkansas right now? And I don't know. Like I said, there could be, realistic answers for all this stuff. I mean, as much as I'm into conspiracies, I still think that 99% of the time there's usually a good explanation for things. But when people are intentionally withholding information, that by nature of doing so is conspiratorial, And that's why when I say, is this all a conspiracy right now that's playing out? Well, absolutely. Because a conspiracy is when one or more groups of people combine or come together, and then they share a portion or a fraction of the information in order to get a desired result that manipulates the society. That's a conspiracy. So that's obviously going on right now, But I have to wonder how early they actually knew this was coming, because out of all the conspiracies that were out there, the flat earth conspiracy, I remember they pointed that one out, and I remember thinking, well, YouTube's just picking on the flat earthers. They're just using this to try to make all conspiracy theory people, look ignorant. And, they were saying things like, well, we just don't want to spread that type of information. And, that's something that most people, would look at and agree with and go, yeah, we don't need young kids, thinking that the world is flat. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's low-hanging fruit. It's like the worst tactics, because there's a pretty massive difference between the flat earthers and Jade Helm conspiracy. Jade Helm, is a real thing, at least in practice. And if you're not familiar with what Jade Helm is, it was basically a series of military procedures in which, full-on military combat training, events went on throughout the country in Houston, Texas, in Miami, in Los Angeles, in Chicago, and without any announcement whatsoever. I mean, I'm talking massive military action went on. Like the last one in Los Angeles, there was at one point 13 different Chinook helicopters that were letting, soldiers into the street, and they were letting off live ammunition, live rounds. They had specific buildings that they had identified as buildings that they could train in or shoot at and hold, these military procedures in. And they were doing that. I mean, this was on the news, guys. You can go look this up. You can Google this. Just, Google Jade Helm, Los Angeles, and you'll see about a year ago this all went on. So here's the thing, whether or not that is what's happening right now, which, again, I just find it so impossible to believe that martial law could ever be, instated or even be effective in the United States. There is still that, maybe we're arrogant enough to try. If the public just goes along with what they're being told without ever requiring real information, then maybe the military is testing just that. Maybe they're seeing how far we would go without information. Maybe that's what's going on, because this all feels like a test for something greater, doesn't it? Am I crazy when I say that? Do you guys feel that way? Because I've had a couple of friends say, my friend tonight, Justin Ross, was saying, he goes, yeah, no, it definitely feels like a test for something bigger. I'm like, yeah, it does. It totally does. And maybe that is what's going on. But the thing is, without our government telling us what's going on, this is what they're going to get. You're going to get people scared to death of Jade Helm. I spoke to my brother, and he said that in Kansas City, the news basically directed people, told citizens to stop spreading rumors about essentially Jade Helm. Stop spreading rumors that martial law was going to begin, that's not the case, that the guard was coming in, and but they were just coming in to help the medical system, to help deliver supplies and do makeshift hospitals and stuff like that. So, think about that. When's the last time you heard of the public being told to stop spreading rumors? Again, that's not how it works in America, man. If the government or state and local government wants rumors to stop being spread, there's a real simple way to do that. Come clean with what you're doing. Make us feel comfortable. And if that's not a priority, then again, the incompetence goes even deeper than I ever imagined, because, man, right along with medical care, if this thing is what they say it is, the next priority that should be equal with, get people money and food and supplies and medicine, should be make the public feel comfortable. Make the public feel as though you're being honest with them and that we are in this together, because every step that the government takes in which they don't tell us what's going on, then we're not in this together. We're not. And that's just a fact. If we're going to be lied to, then there's you over there and me over here. And that divide can quickly be shored up. It just takes truth. It just takes truth. Part of the reason why I think these issues happen is just a complete detachment from the real world. All these politicians that are on the Hill, they live in this world where, money is just thrown around like it's nothing. They set up these foundations and they live off these, massive grants that come in. And, you have, the situation like with Biden's son. And I'm not even like a big, pro-Trump supporter. But, the stuff that went down with Joe Biden's kid in the Ukraine is fucking ridiculous. It was ridiculous. I mean, Biden basically got Ukraine $1 billion in aid in exchange for them, kicking back money into Biden's foundation and putting his son on the board of this energy company that he had nothing to do with and paid him $100,000 a month to do it. That's the world they live in. So when it comes to, understanding the urgency of, the single mother in Watts right now that's not feeling well, that has 4 kids and doesn't have any way to make up the ground lost by being, told to go home and quit her job, working at the local school. They have no idea what it's like to be in that situation. They're so removed from it. So they can, at the end of the day, they can go, well, we tried to, we tried to meet in the middle, guys. I guess we couldn't find a middle ground. We'll just tell the American public that we tried and we're going to try again tomorrow. When it's like, hey, no, listen, motherfucker. Your jobs are paid for by the money that we pay in to run our government. There should not be a separation. Take care of people. Make sure they can eat. Make sure they have medicine. These are fundamental things that should be covered. And heaven help them if they do try to do this ignorant thing of, you can't go to this neighborhood. I mean, what about the person, like there's a buddy of mine who's lives over here in California, on this side of the hill in Santa Monica, and his mother lives over the hill in Van Nuys, and she's a senior citizen, and 3 times a week he goes over there to basically check in on her and take care of her, get her groceries, bring her money, like basically take care of her. So what are you going to tell that guy? Sorry, there's coronavirus. Your mom? Yeah, well, fuck her. She's over there, so you got to stay over here. What? Yeah, that ain't gonna fly. What about the person who, works, and this happens a lot. There are tons of people who work in Santa Monica but live in the valley because they can't afford housing over here. So what do we tell all those people? I mean, a lot of them have already been sent home, but the pre-existing people that are working, at the grocery stores, are working for the city and state jobs, the post office, like all that stuff. Like, what do? We tell those people they can no longer drive over here? What about the guy who's engaged to a girl that lives in the valley and he lives on this side of the hill? So what, they can no longer see each other? Like, that's not going to work. Like, this whole you can't move around and drive around thing. At some point, you got to start considering quality of life, and they shouldn't, bring it to that level. At some point, our government is going to have to start making people feel good about what's going on right now. And to this point, I mean, the grade, in my opinion, is an absolute F minus. I mean, it's been pretty horrific, man. This thing came on way too fast. We should have known about this long in advance. And what's even weird about the whole thing, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, and I don't know what this means yet, okay? So I'm not suggesting in any way that this isn't real, because obviously people are dying. I've seen, the footage of the bodies, and there are people who have come forward to say they're sick, but like, I don't know anybody right now personally that has COVID-19. And on my Facebook page earlier today, I said, is there anybody on here that's following me that knows anyone directly that has COVID-19? And the last time I checked, I mean, I was 100 comments deep. And the closest thing is people had heard through the grapevine about someone loosely connected to somebody in their circle of friends that maybe had it. Nobody knew anyone directly that had. No one said, yeah, I got it. That's one thing. Nobody said, I got it. And nobody said, yes, my sister has it, my brother has it, or someone in my emergency or in my immediate family has it. Nobody. Absolutely nobody. Now, I don't know what that means. Could it mean that in most of the cases, as they're saying, in 97% of the cases, that the symptoms are so mild that you can get it and not know you have it, or that you've already been through it and it just didn't hit you that hard? Could mean that. It could mean that the effects of it are just really low on certain people. It could be that nobody knows because there's just not enough tests yet, and they haven't tested enough people. Very, very possible. Or it could be a massive intentional overreaction. To test this out. I mean, there are parts of this that remind me of, when the HIV epidemic happened. Like, we heard about HIV, and then just out of the blue, it was just like a massive deal that was killing everybody. And the next thing we know, Magic Johnson has it. Holy shit, Magic Johnson has it. And then years would go by, and then we would learn that Magic Johnson doesn't have it. All his tests today come back as negative. And this is at a time period where HIV was frying people in weeks, man. Like, Freddie Mercury, Eazy-E, like dudes were checking out from HIV fast. But not Magic Johnson. And conspiracy theorists look to his name and laugh and say the Illuminati has a sense of humor. The guy that supposedly got HIV happened to be named Magic Johnson, like Magic Dick. Like he had a magic dick, and somehow he got rid of HIV. And then what's really weird is, right after it's announced that COVID-19 is, a pandemic, we hear that Tom Hanks has it right away. And if you abbreviate his name, it's thanks. The one thing I can say is that in a lot of Illuminati conspiracies, if they are real, and a lot of them, as we're learning this year, are real, there is often a sense of humor associated with these things. So, who knows? I don't know. I think that it's healthy to look into conspiracies as long as you know that most of them aren't real. But, the flip side, this year we've learned that a lot of them are a lot more real than we think. I mean, remember, Alex Jones got banned from all social media. We're talking about a U.S. citizen that was silenced by the few people that own, run, and control social media because he was dangerous. He was deadly. But you know what? It was Alex Jones that told us all about Epstein a decade ago. And everyone said he's crazy, the Illuminati, all this shit doesn't exist. That's not real. And then, it did. He said, the Clintons are dirty. And Bill Clinton was on the Lolita Express plane 20-some times with Epstein. And it turns out, oh shit, he was. And Alex Jones told everybody that, all these uber rich, world leaders and billionaires and celebrities get together in gowns and pray to the owl god Moloch, and that they have these crazy drug and sex parties. But that's not real. And it turns out that, no, it is real. Alex snuck in and, filmed the footage of it. There's just so much that, we've learned that is real. You hear forever that, oh, Hitler died, they have his skull. And then you find out, no, the skull they have is probably Eva Braun's, and that Hitler more than likely did escape to South America. And then you find out that the FBI had over 50 agents searching for Hitler, in South America. And this is something that forever they said was, all BS. And they found, no, it was true. It's just like, you're told 9/11, the official 9/11 report's absolute bullshit. We all know that now. Think how long the government concluded that, JFK was a single shooter, event. And we obviously know that's not true. Yeah. So what's going on right now, rest assured we're not getting the story. I know that. But they've got to do a better job of letting us know what's going on, or else the price of this fuckery, man, it's going to be panic. And when people start panicking, bad things happen, man. And I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see, lives being lost to riots and looting that is created by an insecurity created by the government due to either a massive overreaction or a massive loss when it comes to being prepared to handle something like this. It's one or the other. So they better start figuring out how to make people feel more comfortable, because that's what scares me way more than the virus, guys. I'm going to keep saying it, because that is what I see the real thing that could turn ugly, the real thing that we should be afraid of right now is civil unrest. My father is super ill, and I'll talk about that more soon, but I can tell you that when his illness initially hit, it fucked me up, man. It really did. I went into a spiraling depression, and I had never felt depression before. Admittedly, I always thought depression just meant you were sad. I didn't know that it could become this crippling thing where it's next to impossible to get out of bed. But just the thought of losing him in a way that is unjust and unfair and unlike anything I've ever seen. At times you have that natural, it's just natural, man, to just be angry at the sky, man, to be angry at God, and to just feel like, this world is just brutal, just fuck everyone, man. Like, it's just, I don't feel that way as a person, but it's human nature in a moment of passion to feel that way. So now I'm imagining, if this virus is as deadly as they say, I'm just trying to imagine if I'm, anybody who loses a loved one to this, you're going to be crushed. But now I'm trying to imagine being crushed and then also, not even having time to mourn, because you got to figure out how your kids are going to eat tomorrow. And either the money the government sent isn't enough or none came, I mean, I have empathy for the person that would feel like, I have nothing to lose, man. My wife is dying to this shit, or my mom just died, my grandma died. I ain't got no money, no way to make money. I have no way to get medicines. I have no, whatever. It's on. It's Mad Max time. I just think that's possible for a lot of people right now, and they need to figure out how to shore that up and take care of those people. They need to take care of those people. And I mean first. I just feel, man, I feel for what's coming, and in these, neighborhoods, like, listen, if the hospitals, in the rich neighborhoods are not equipped, to handle this situation, what do you think the hospitals like, in Watts are like? What do you think of the hospitals in the South Side Chicago are like? I mean, it is what it is. They're not going to be ready. And I just when I think about how these people, God, what that feeling must be like if you, like I said, if you lost your mother or your son or your grandma, and you're just fucked financially, you don't have any way to with work. You don't have me. I want you to know, man, I feel for you guys, and you're in my hearts, you're in my prayers. I could run on about this all night long because it's just something that really matters to me. So I hope we're there for those people, and I hope that if our government doesn't help them, I hope that we can find a way as a society to help those people. And I hope it doesn't become a situation that turns into the city burning. But unfortunately, I think that's probably where it's headed. But I will continue to update you guys from California as to what is going on. I am doing fine. I'm feeling fine. Laura's feeling good. We're doing okay. We're on lockdown here. Everything's good. Besides, again, just having a little discomfort about what's going on because I don't feel like I know the plan. Outside of that, we're fine. So I pray that all of you are. Last thing, really quickly, guys. I made 6 films today available for free. Just doing my part in trying to help, people pass the time as enjoyable as they can during this lockdown. We also discounted a bunch of films, new release bundles. We discounted by like 70%, just to try to make it easy for everybody to have a bunch of movies they could watch. So like I said, there's like 6 free titles and 4 or 5 titles that we or 10 titles that we bundled as well. One of them's a 6-pack. We can get 6 films for like $10. So please enjoy. Click the link in the comment box below if you want to watch some pre-films, or pick up our newest releases for next to nothing. Again, it's just part of doing what we can do. I'm a storyteller. I'm a filmmaker. One of the ways we can help this situation is just try to make your life as enjoyable as it can be, right? As we all go through this. So we are definitely in it together. And thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it. And I will be back tomorrow once again with episode number 98. But in the meantime, you guys take care of each other. Take care of yourself. Much love. All the best. And I will be back tomorrow. Take care.